On today's episode of the ThriveMore podcast, I interview Kat Sterling. And Kat, one, is a ball of energy. This woman is fun. I just really enjoyed talking with her, and just an easy guest to interview. But she's going to talk about the entrepreneurial journey that she's been on. She was in corporate America for a long time, was a consultant, and then moved into being an entrepreneur. She grew up with an entrepreneurial father who did really well in real estate, but he was a deputy that then got involved in real estate. And she'll talk about that and the sacrifices that he had to make and how that affected her. But great interview in talking about what it's like to transition from corporate America into entrepreneurship. But man, around the 30-minute mark, give or take, we get real. We just get really real. And I think it's going to help some of the listeners if they're going through a difficult time right now or they're questioning some things in their own life. So it's funny how these interviews start off and I expect one thing and I'm kind of signing up for one thing, but yet I get these beautiful bonuses, and you as a listener, I hope do as well. Enjoy. I am very excited. I have Kat Sterling, and I have a little bit of a lengthy bio here, but it's on purpose because she has done a lot, and you'll want to hear about this as we get into her story. Kat is an entrepreneur, a writer, a coach, and a motivational speaker from Shelby, North Carolina. Her book, Why They Are Winning and You Are Not, The Steps to Finding Success in Life, is an Amazon bestseller. Kat holds a bachelor's of science degree in biology with a minor in chemistry from Bennett College in Greensboro, North Carolina, not too far from where I live here in Charlotte, as well as a master's degree in public health from Emory down in Atlanta. In addition, she has a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt certification and is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. She's an accomplished healthcare professional who's passionate about empowering individuals to pursue their dreams, and her passion for writing began as a hobby where she would write short blogs on social media to, encourage those struggling with motivation and self-doubt. And if you're an entrepreneur or a would-be entrepreneur, you probably are struggling with motivation and self-doubt. And from there, it became a passion, which eventually led to her authoring and publishing her first book. We'll talk about that today. And Kat is on a mission to help people across the globe. She currently resides in Atlanta, Georgia, with her husband and 2 children. So, Kat, welcome to the ThriveMore podcast. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited about this
entrepreneur.
Super excited.
Fantastic. And I wanted to get all that in the intro, just because when I read your book, Why They're Winning and You Are Not, you just have a very varied background, and which makes you a unique guest to interview. So I want to start, if we could, because your career spans different industries, and I want to understand your unique story. So if you can tell us really how you got to here, and what's most important is just, we'll talk about some of the lessons you learned along the way, right? That's what life does. It teaches those lessons. And everything from real estate to healthcare to all that. Talk to me about kind of your genesis and your origin story.
Got it. So since I was young, I wanted to be a doctor. That's what I really wanted to do in life. I thought I was going to be a doctor. That didn't work out. And so I continued to pursue my education in healthcare, but it was on the operation/administration side. So I ended up going as a corporate administration in healthcare. So I did that a long time. I was a consultant, did that a long time, very successful at it. But then some things this past couple of years happened at my job where it's like, I would have never thought that would have happened. You got to read the book to find out. I know you read it. You know the story, but the audience has to read the book to find out. But some things happened at my job and I had to leave. And so after that, it was like I had this book sitting on the shelf for at least 5 years. It took me at least 5 years to write this book. I had it sitting there. It was just waiting to be cultivated and written. And so 2 weeks after I left that job, I finished that book. So I said, this is my mission and my purpose. Yeah. I got to go out and tell people this story, my story, how I came to get here, and some things I've learned along the way. My husband has been an entrepreneur forever. Like, as soon as I met him, he was an entrepreneur. He's always been an entrepreneur. So this is, if you're not an entrepreneur, and you know what I'm talking about, Roger, if you're not an entrepreneur and you come from a corporate background, it is tough. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And it's not for the faint of heart, because it's not like you get a paycheck every week. It's not like you have consistency every week, but you have to be consistent and you have to drive yourself and you have to keep going regardless of what's going on. Your business is fluctuating. This isn't working. That client left. you have to keep going. And I wasn't used to that. And so it was traumatic for me. And I was like, I just
Yeah.
want to go back to work. I just want a paycheck. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm quitting.
Sure.
But, perseverance and motivation is what kept me going. And now I'm here and I'm like, I can speak to it. I can tell everybody there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Like there is a light. Just keep going. Just keep pursuing your dreams, whatever it is you want to do. But I would not advise you to quit your day job while you are pursuing those dreams. Don't get up tomorrow and say, I'm going to quit
Yep.
today and go pursue my dreams, because it's not that easy.
I agree with you. I think there's this romanticized, with social media and Instagram and all the rented Lambos and fake jets, that
Oh my
everyone
God.
thinks I quit. I quit on a Friday and on Monday I'm making 8 figures. That is not how it works at all. And I do believe that people should kind of wade into the water. Now, I don't believe in sticking a toe in the water. I love your thoughts on this. If you stick a toe in the water and it's cold, you're never going to get in the water.
Right.
But go waist deep at least, like waist deep,
Exactly.
you still have your income, but you've maybe signed a lease, you've maybe taken a loan, you've had a prototype built, something where you've got a skin in the
Absolutely.
game, and it's not easy to quit, because you said it.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
everything in our body says, this is really hard. I don't want to do this anymore, right? Yeah. And you have to have something to pull you through that. Yeah. Well, if we can, let's go back. In your book, I read about how you grew up with an entrepreneurial father,
I
which
did.
is funny because I did too, but I didn't see him as an entrepreneur, and neither did you.
Didn't
Uh,
either.
no, when I read it, I was like, I know what she's talking about, because that's just what Dad did. He's not an entrepreneur. That's just what he does to earn a living. That's how he puts food on the table.
Right. Right.
Meanwhile, he was an entrepreneur, right? So talk
Yeah.
about, if you could, growing up with your father, who really put everything into real estate and having properties and rentals. And I'd love for you to talk about the good, the bad, and even some of the ugly of having a father who was an entrepreneur, and what it took to be successful for your father, and how that impacted you.
There was a lot of sacrifices that he made. And I see that on the back end. I didn't understand it at the time. And as an entrepreneur, you will make a lot of sacrifices. I talk about that in my book too. There's seasons. So sometimes you may have to give up your friends in order to work that business, or you may have to sacrifice time with your family to work that business. And so my dad did a lot of that sacrifice, but it paid off. He was a detective, and he didn't quit his job until he got successful enough to quit. He was a detective in Gastonia. I know you know where Gastonia is.
Sure.
Gastonia PD. And my mom was a magistrate. She didn't quit until she was 45. He quit at 35. She quit at 45. And so they quit when they were at a stable point in order to, pursue their dreams. But yeah, he did it for years while he was working. Like he probably did real estate for 10 years, 10 plus years while he was working, until he got up his properties. He owned 110 properties throughout the Shelby, North Carolina,
Wow.
Shelby, Kings Mountain, Gastonia area. He owned at least 110 properties. And so I never saw him as an entrepreneur. I didn't know what that meant. I never knew what that meant. And I kick myself, because I'm like, if I had have sat down and taken the time to really figure out what it is he does and really learn the craft, I probably could have been a billionaire by now. But yeah,
Sure.
that's life. That's, it's a different path. It's just like kids who grew up in households with doctors as parents. They don't go into the medical field. You never, you don't pay attention to that until you get older. And so life is a journey, and I'm on my own path. But yeah, he did real estate, and he did very well at it. He was very successful.
And you were very open in your book about, there were, I can't remember the sport, maybe volleyball. I can't remember what the sport was you talked about, but or track meet something,
Track.
but track. And you said that you wish he were more of those meets. And I want you to talk about that, because I do want the audience to understand that when they make that decision to be an entrepreneur, check me on this, but again, social media and all that, I want freedom. But then you shouldn't be an entrepreneur, at least for the first 5 years. Like, there is not a lot of freedom in that first 5 years. It's what you build and what your father built to create that freedom. I call it financial courage, where you have the courage now to take time away, to not do it. But maybe just talk a little bit about the sacrifices he had to make and how that impacted you, because our audience should know that may play out in their own homes.
Absolutely. So typically the first couple of years of your entrepreneurship, you're going to sacrifice time. You're going to sacrifice money, because you're not going to have a plethora of capital coming in. So you're going to sacrifice time, money. with your family, with your spouse. And so it does take a toll on your household. And, there were times, I was in the homecoming court in high school and I wanted my dad to walk me down the football field. And he said he couldn't do it because he was too busy. He had to go collect rent that day. And I didn't understand it at the time. Like I said, I never understood it. But now I get it being in that situation now, because it's like times where my kids are tugging at me and I can't do it. And I feel bad, but it's like, I feel like I'm sacrificing short term for a long term gain,
Yep.
So I
Yep.
want time freedom with them, but not at this moment. It may be 2 years down the road and they have to understand that, which they probably won't. But I'm creating a future and a better life. It's so funny because when you go into corporate, somebody's already built that road. And
Mm-hmm.
so they already paved the road. And so you don't see the sacrifices. You don't get that experience. But when you step out on your own, you're paving your own path. And so it takes layers, brick by brick. You have to pave that path. And so that takes time, money, and energy. That takes a lot of time. Think about it. I said it in my book like this. I said, if it takes you 16 hours a day to get that business up, you got to sleep and you got to eat within that 24-hour span.
Yeah.
And how much time do you really think you're going to have to spend with your spouse and your kids during that 24-hour period if you're working your business 16 hours? You got to put 16, 17 hours. I mean, it's not, an 8-hour day. It is not an
Mm-hmm.
8-hour day. There's no
Mm-hmm.
time limit. You don't start at 8 or 9 and get off at 5. You're working around the clock to try to make things happen in a short window of time, because you may only have a year to get this right. You may only have 6 months to get this right. So you got to put everything in that short period of time. Most people I know don't have money just coming in to funnel at it and continuous time to funnel at it. So it's either do or die, make a break, and you have a short window of time to get it done.
Yeah. I have a 23-year-old and a 20-year-old, and I started my entrepreneurial journey when the older one, was 15 or 16, and he was 11 or 12. And I have apologized to them so much for, I'm sorry I wasn't here. But they helped me. They said, Dad, you were, and you actually got us involved in the business. I gave them the menial jobs, sweeping the floors and mopping and all that kind of stuff to work their way up. But
That's awesome.
it's funny that you give them gifts as a parent that you
Yeah,
don't recognize. You experience it as guilt. They experience it as, oh, this is kind of cool. I get to play an adult and be in a
yeah,
business. And so we have to give ourselves, I think, a little bit of a break there. And one thing I will say,
absolutely.
that what you've said, I was interviewed on somebody else's podcast, and kind of a similar audience. And I said, you have to be prepared that this is going to be, no matter what you read on Instagram, this is going to be 10 times as hard as you think it's going to be. But, and
Absolutely.
the big but, it's going to be 100 times as rewarding as you believe it will be, because it's 10. If it were easy, you probably wouldn't value it. It's like anything. The more we pay, the more we pay attention. And that 10x versus 100x return, you have to put in that 10x. So when you get the 100x return, you're like, I deserve this. I like this. I'm going to enjoy this. And yeah, yeah, yeah.
And let me say something else, Roger.
Please.
One thing I also realized is that, my father was able to, take us on trips that most kids couldn't go on. He was able to buy me a car when I turned me and my sisters. I have 3 sisters. So he was able to buy me and my sisters a car when we turned 16. He paid for college full out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there were benefits. Like I said, he worked his tail off, but there were benefits at the end of the day, because he did have the time freedom to, do whatever he wanted to do. He did have, the luxury of the extra money, because if he worked a 9-to-5 job, he probably wouldn't have made as much money as he did. He probably would have
Yeah.
been as successful, because there's a ceiling. Let's be honest. There is a ceiling in corporate. If you are this, you're only going to get this level. You might get here, very few, but you could get here, but you might get here, so there's
Yeah.
a ceiling.
Yeah.
So there is no ceiling with entrepreneurship. It's what you make it and what, where you take it.
So I have to ask you, when I first got the book off Amazon, I love the title. So why
Thank
they are
you.
winning and you are not. Can you just tell me, like, why you named your book that? Because that is such a punch you in the face title. I dig
It
it. I
is.
totally dig it. Why'd you call the book that?
I was sitting one day, my husband and I have a lot of entrepreneur friends. Like I said, he's an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. And so we have a lot of friends that are entrepreneurs. And for a long time, we sat and watched everybody else in our circle. Like, they were doing so well. This person was doing this and this person was doing this. And we were like, what are we doing wrong? Like, why are we not winning? Like, what is going on? And so the title just came to me one day. I was like, why are they
Yeah.
winning and we're not? I'm confused. And so
Yeah.
it's not about comparison. I have to make that very clear to people. It's not about comparing yourself, because your walk and your journey and whatever you're meant to do in life is going to be totally different from somebody else's walk. So when people are looking at people on Instagram and Facebook and saying, oh, this person's so successful and this person's doing this, look, take that out of the equation. You have to look at your own journey in life and what you are meant to be doing, and what is your purpose? What does God put you down here to do? And so I say that to say, don't compare yourself. My book is not about comparison. It's about comparison to yourself, not to other people. You need to look at yourself. Look within yourself and figure out, what are you not doing to get you where you want to go? If you want to be successful in business, what are you not doing to get you where you want to go? And I know there's something that you're not doing, because a lot of
Yeah.
people say, well, I'm doing everything. No, that's not true. Have you put in 10 hours a day or 15 hours a day? Are you putting in, extra time after everybody's asleep? Are you researching your market? Are you going out and getting prospective people that you can network with to learn from? There's a lot of things that you're probably not doing that you think you're doing because you did it in your 9 to 5 and you think that's good enough. That's not good enough.
Nope. Nope. No, I love it. I love it. You write that there are a lot of things that can lead to success or failure in life.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to, and you write about narrowing it down to particular items. Can you just talk about this definition of success or failure and how to narrow down what you're working on? Because you just said, there's always more you can do. Just talk about your process, if you could, your process.
So my process is I got to find my purpose. Like, what is my purpose? What is my passion? What am I good at? What do I want to do? And see, that's the thing. When I was sitting in corporate, I knew there was something else. It's so funny because I always say this. I say, I don't know if you're spiritual, Roger, but I'm a little spiritual. And so I say, when God tells you to move, it's like, and you sit there and you don't do it because you're comfortable. Because I was comfortable. I was making a 6-figure salary. I was like, I don't
Yeah.
want it. I don't want it. Don't make me. No. So
No.
when you don't move and he tells you to move, and he'd been telling me to move for years, but he gave me grace. He was like, you know what? I'm just gonna let her do her thing for a while. And so when that thing happened at my job and I was forced to move, I was like, wait a minute, like what is this? Like I don't understand. But God was like, I told you to get ready. I told you need to be working on this. I told you to finish that book, but I didn't listen. And so, like I said, preparing yourself for those seasons of change is super important. I wasn't prepared for the season of change. I didn't listen, and I was a bad child. I thought I could continue on status quo, but I knew there was more. I knew there was something else out there. And I said, you know what? I got to find, in this season of change, I got to find my purpose. What is my purpose? Okay. I got a book that's half written. I know I'm supposed to finish it. Let me go finish it. And so you got to figure out what your passion is. Whatever your passion is will lead you to your purpose. That's what I always say. Whatever you're passionate about, that's going to lead you to your purpose. Don't worry about the dollar amount. Don't worry about what you're making, because if you're good at it and you're passionate about it, the money is going to come. The money's going to come at some point. Yep. But it may not come tomorrow, but you have to be consistent at it. I know some guys, I talked about this in my book. I know some guys that were, they started it's called the Black Dollar Network. They started it was an app. They started an app. They worked on that app for 7 years. 7 years. 7 years. Got declined by a lot of people that would back them in capital, had to put their own money in, but they kept at it for 7 years. And then finally, they got backed by one of the largest Black banks. So it's like, if you can't tomorrow, like a lot of people want this instant gratification, and that is not reality. That's not realistic. Some people, yes, it may happen for them quickly, but most people, it takes years before they ever reach success. So you have to figure out what success looks like to you. Success does not look like everybody else's. My success doesn't look like Roger's success. My success is not going to look like my husband's success. So you got to define what success looks like. Success might be time freedom. It may not be money. It might be time freedom for one person, where it might be, I want a Porsche for this person, or I want, to take vacations with my family twice a year. So you have to figure out what success looks like for you in this season, and then figure out what your purpose and your passion is. And when purpose and passion have that intersection, you're going to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, everyone. As you know, I don't have any advertisements nor sponsorships on this podcast. My only ask of you, the listener, is that you share this podcast with someone that you know, a friend, a family member, a coworker, or a colleague who may benefit from this information, may benefit from today's guest, from the value that they're sharing with the audience, with you, the listener. When you share this podcast and our audience grows, it allows me to book more and more guests who have a great message, great nuggets of wisdom that you can benefit from, and again, your network can benefit from. So please, right now, push that share button, send it to somebody that you care about, and let's get back to the interview. I just feel compelled to, I love your energy. Kat, I love your energy.
Oh, thank you.
Oh my gosh. I feel compelled to share this with you. I sent earlier today, I saw a post and, it was like in your 20s, what you lack in experience, you can make up for with long hours and hard work. And, and I sent that to my kids. My daughter fired back and she said, I appreciate this, Dad, but I also love spending time with the people I love. I love enjoying my hobbies. And I also love, and it
Wow.
made me just pause, like what you just said, her path, and she's got a great job and doing well on her own, but her path is different than my path. My 20s were all about grind, climb the ladder, and that doesn't bring her joy. What brings her joy is having a more balanced life. And, but I will say that people shouldn't, I hate that our society tries to shame people that work a lot, because the other night it was like 8:30 at night and I looked at my wife on the couch and I said, do you mind if I'm still working? She's like, no. And I said, I appreciate that because I actually really enjoy working. I really enjoy this, and because that brings me, and she knows it brings me joy to create and to build. But I just think I think people will hear what you said, but not listen. And I'm trying to draw more attention to it by that little story of your path is your own. Your
Yeah.
children's path is their own. Your
Oh my
spouse's
gosh.
path is his or her own.
Absolutely.
And when you focus on your path
Yes.
and finding joy in that, it's funny how
Yes.
things kind of fall into place, right, Kat?
Yes.
They align.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, it's so funny because our society is so like, I think this new generation is figuring it out better than we did before.
Sure.
And our parents' generation, it's like this new generation is figuring out, they're figuring out their own path. For us, it was more of a, you go to school, you get good grades, you go to college, and you get a good job. And then there was no in between. There is no, you can be an entrepreneur, you can be, and that's another reason why I didn't go and think I could be an entrepreneur, because nobody really taught me that. Even though I grew up in an entrepreneurial household, nobody really taught me that at school. They said, you need to go to school. You got to go get your master's degree. You got to go get your bachelor's degree. That's all I was taught. Now, this new generation, they're like, you know what? I don't want to do all that. I want to travel the world and be an Instagram influencer.
Yeah.
Like, go for it. If that's what you want.
If you can support yourself, knock yourself out. Absolutely. Yeah.
They are different. They're going for it. And I'm not mad at it. I'm like, I wish more about our generation had the courage to do some of the things that this new generation has the courage. They're like, I don't care about all that. I just want to live life and have a good life and do this and do that. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So, hey, go on your own journey.
It is. I was first generation college, and my parents, by the time I was a young kid, like, you're going to college. That it was never an option. It was never, you're going to college.
No other options.
No.
Right.
And my two kids, my one daughter, full ride to Chapel Hill. My son was like, this ain't for me, man. Moved to LA to follow the pursue the music dream. And I'm fine with it. I'm absolutely fine, because his passion is meeting his purpose.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and 4 years school wouldn't have been for him. It would have made it would have been a waste of money. Absolute waste of money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. How many friends did you go to school with that got these degrees and they don't even use them today? They never used them. They got these 40-year degrees because somebody told them to do that, and they never used that degree one day in their life. I know so many people that did that. So many, waste time and money. Yeah.
Too many. Yeah. So let's talk about, so we've talked about, your passion meeting your purpose and the effort we have to put in, but I would love to hear from you. What is one of the bigger mistakes that you've made on this path of transitioning from a corporate role into an entrepreneur role where you have to support yourself, you have to make things happen? It's never a smooth journey, right? Ever. So maybe share with the audience, gosh, guys, try to avoid this if you can, because I made this mistake. What would that be?
Like I said before, waiting till something happens to move you versus you moving when you're supposed to move or when you're
Mm,
told to move, and preparing yourself for that season of drought. So you may not get a paycheck for 6 months, being an entrepreneur.
yeah.
You may not, I haven't had a paycheck for a year, a regular paycheck.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so it's preparing yourself, understanding what capital you need to start up your business. Most people don't even do a simple business plan. If you're going to do a business, you need to have a business plan. What does my business look like in the next 6 months? What does it look like in the next 12 months? I don't care what you're doing. You need to have a simple business plan and projections. Another thing is being consistent. Like I said, waking up in the morning, getting your butt up in the morning and doing the work that it takes to get your business to where you want it to get to be. Like if you have a 9 to 5 job and you have to work 11 to 1 in the morning, while everybody else is asleep, to put in extra hours for that business that you want to start, do it. Do it. But like I said, the number one thing is don't try to come out here and start your new business and not have a job. That's my number one thing. I would say that. Don't do that. Don't do what I did. Just don't wait until something moves you in order to move. If you want to be an entrepreneur, do it while you have an income, or if you have a spouse that supports you, great. That's great too. But don't do it when you don't have any income. That's the hardest thing to do. That's hard because then you're trying to piecemeal stuff. I feel like you're trying to scramble to get stuff together, and you don't ever want to be in a situation where you're desperate, because I feel like that energy kind of repels whatever you're trying to bring to you. You don't want that desperate energy,
I would completely agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I too. I think we talked right. For the few minutes before we went live here that I spent 25 years in corporate America before I made the leap. And it's easy for you and I to talk about corporate America and say, all the chaos and the bureaucracy and all the, the Shark Tank and all that. But I don't know about you, Kat, but I'm incredibly grateful for the polish, the training,
Absolutely.
the leaders. Like I really believe in my heart that an entrepreneur that spent 10, 15 years in corporate America, but in his or her mind, like, but this is a means to an end. I think they're better prepared because they have that emotional intelligence that corporate America, quite frankly, forces you to learn and build, than just somebody right out of high school or college that just starts their own thing. I admire that. I just think they're going to pay a lot more for those lessons versus being paid to learn those lessons. And people should be grateful for what they get in corporate America as they go ahead then and start their thing and do their own thing. But I'd love your thoughts on that.
The skill sets also, like the emotional intelligence skill sets that I've learned. Like I said, I was a consultant, so I know how to do business strategy. I know how to put PowerPoint decks together. Like my husband and I are trying to start another company right now, and I put the whole deck together. I did the whole pro forma, and I amazed myself. I was like, I used to do this for other people, but I was like, man, I did a good job on this. Oh my gosh, I was really good. So I did all that myself, and so it was invaluable because I didn't have to pay somebody to do it. Because it's about what, sometimes $10,000 to get people to put a business plan and a deck and all that stuff and do the pro forma and all that together. So, I mean, I was able to do that myself, and I did a very good job at it. And then what's funny, this is the funny part. That's why I was like, when you find your passion and you find your purpose and you start doing things and walking in that path, things start aligning. So what's funny is I've been meeting people who have been needing those services, and I've been kind of talking through certain things with those people. They're like, oh my God, you ought to do this for a living. You should start coaching people on how to put these things together. And I'm like, really? I never thought of it. I mean, I just did it for myself, but I never thought about that. So the skills that I learned over the 20 plus years that I was in corporate, I mean, it's just invaluable. I mean, you can't beat that. And somebody coming out of college, I mean, yeah, they would, there's some things that they would know, but if you've never worked a job and known how it feels, another thing I would also say this, another thing that I learned was how to treat people, because I've been at positions where, I've had some bosses that were less than favorable, like they weren't very nice, or they would, in the consulting world, especially, you get these emails at 2:00 in the morning saying how stupid you are, how their presentation sucks, and so it's like, okay, I don't ever want to make somebody feel like that. It's all about learning and growing and coaching for me. I don't want to be a boss that manages by fear. And so when I have my own employees, I know how to treat people, and I know how people want to be treated to make them stay. That's what creates longevity in your company. If you have people that, know how to treat other people, and you know how to treat your people, then you're going to have a successful company, you know? So
Yep.
I can't stand
Yep.
to go to companies where people are late or they're unprofessional or they just, they're just not customer oriented. And so that's the culture you breed. And so when you bring that into your own business, it's like, you wonder why people don't want to patronize your business because you fostered an environment that's negative. So I know how to foster a positive environment for people now. So there's a lot of things that I've learned being in corporate. I mean, like I said, I don't knock it at all. It was great.
Yeah.
And I learned how to navigate and negotiate, situations. So it was so invaluable. But like I said, I don't
Yep.
want to go back.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. I'm the same way. Yeah. I loved it. I'm grateful. Thank you. Next chapter. Yeah. Thank you. Next chapter. Um,
Right.
if you can, and you can't pick your own book, and you can't say the Bible because those are too easy. So my listeners know that I'm an avid reader, and I always love to have guests give a recommendation of a book that really helped them in. It could be just life, it could be in business, in relationships, whatever. But is there a book that you read a long time ago, you just recently put down, that you could share with the readers that had a real impact on you?
Think and Grow Rich was one of the books that taught me how to change my mindset. So I
Yeah.
really like that book.
Timeless. Napoleon Hill,
Oh, it's
timeless.
definitely timeless. I've read it like probably 3 times.
Yep.
I Will Teach You How to Be Rich taught me how to manage my money. There was another one too. I can't think of it. There's a couple of them. I can't,
Yeah,
and you
sure,
ask me,
sure. Put you on the spot. Yeah.
there's a lot
Yep.
of them I could rattle off. I'm like, yeah, this one, because there's some
Yeah.
great authors out there. I think it's about getting something that changes your mindset, like reading books that change your mindset and teach you different ways of looking at things you've always thought you could only be looked at one way, like life and business and corporate and leadership, all those things. Like I think books like that, they move me. I gravitate towards them because I always want to learn and grow and really figure out how I can be better, how I can teach myself better things. Because that's another thing. It's like, people are stuck in their ways and they don't want to change. You have to be able to also look introspective. What am I doing wrong? Like, what is it about me that may not get the results that I want? Or what is it about me that I can change that can, foster a better environment? Whatever that is, you got to be able to look introspective. And I love books that make me look introspective.
Yep. Yeah. I think what you, to encapsulate, I think what you said is it's the books that break your own limiting beliefs. And we all walk around
Yeah,
with limiting beliefs. We all walk around with limiting beliefs.
absolutely.
Yeah. And
You have to
when I
remind
set up,
yourself. Yeah.
yes, when I set a book down that has an impact on me, usually it's because it's called me out on doing something I know I should change. I know I should change. And right. Yeah. Yeah. I may not love
Yeah.
the author right when I set it down because, I'm like, how do you know that about me? But yeah, that's funny.
We always think we're the only people going through certain things. It's like, oh my God, why me? Why me, Lord? Why am I going through this challenge? Or why am I going through this in life? And it's like, no, it's not just you. It's 1,000 other people in life going through the same thing that you're going through. So it's like, I love books that like you said, can call me out on my stuff and make me look at things different or challenge me in a different way because I'm not the only person that's going through these things or experiencing these things in life. That's
Yeah.
always a plus.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. A couple final questions here. So we fast forward to the end of your full rich life, and you have this beautiful, genuine smile. So you're going to live this amazing life. But we get to the end, and we're at your funeral, and you're looking, from above or wherever, and you're looking down, and a loved one is reading your eulogy. But whoever that is reading it is only allowed to choose 3 words, 3 descriptors to describe Kat and the life you lived. What 3 words do you hope they choose to describe you?
Wow, there's so many. No, I'm kidding. um, let's see. I would say peaceful. I would say giving, and I would say a change maker.
Love it. I always challenge the audience to ask themselves that question because
Mhm.
if peaceful, giving, and change maker are the words, then that's the intention you should set every single day, right? That's the intention that you should do. And it's so easy for all of us to get caught up in life. But if we just distill, I love that question because, and honestly, I stole that question because somebody asked me that in a leadership course. wow, does that distill my life down to what I should really be focused on? And all the other stuff is really, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It's those three words. That's what I need to focus on.
You know, it's so funny because you would have asked me this a couple of years ago. I probably would have said something different. I probably would have been like, "Oh, successful and this and that." But my mom always said, you realize what's important the older you get and the more life lessons you learn. You realize what's most important in life, and going through like transition and change. This process has forced me to look at life different. Like after the job situation, it's forced me to look at life totally different. There was a season where I went through, it was, I don't want to get into it right here, but there
Yeah.
was a season where I went through some rough stuff. It was just, my marriage was on the line because it's a tough situation. Marriage was on the line, finances, about to lose a house, the car. And so it really forces you when you're in a situation of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's
Yeah.
it's it's like you're at your low. You're at your
Yeah.
low. You are at your lowest of the low. But it's really self propagated. You did it to yourself because, like I said, you didn't prepare. So it's like when you're at your low point and life kicks you down, like down to the bottom, like life kicks you a new one. Um, it really forces you to look at things differently. I no longer look at life and success the way I used to. Success, you would ask me this 2 years ago. I would have said, "Oh yeah, I want a big car, a big house. I want to have $1 billion, and me being a CEO." Blah. Yeah, that's nice. That's cute. I would have said that 2 years ago. But today, success. I just want freedom, time freedom. I want money freedom. Doesn't have to be a billionaire. I want money freedom, and I want to have a good life. I want to have a good life with my kids and my husband, and I want to have a peaceful life. So it's really forced me. And then I want to give. I want to be able to give to people. I want to be able to be charitable. So it really forced me to change the way I looked at things. I used to be so focused on material possessions and, accomplishing and acquiring. But now it's like, no, I don't have to do all that. I don't have to please everybody. I don't have to do and show everybody how great I am on social media. I don't do that anymore. And I feel it's
Yep.
so freeing when you get to that point in your life where you can
That's a
do
good
that
word.
and you can just let go. Isn't it freeing? It's so
Yep.
freeing. It's like, okay, I don't have to worry about what people think about me anymore. I'm just going to shed all this. I don't care. I don't care if
Yep.
I walk out without any makeup. I don't care anymore. And so that
Yeah.
that used to be not me. And so if you knew me 2 years ago, you'd be like, oh my God, this is a totally different cat. Like this is a
Yeah.
totally different person. So life circumstances force you to really reevaluate things in your life. And I'm grateful for it.
I appreciate you sharing. You said your marriage was on the line. Financially, it was tough.
Yeah.
How did you get out of that? How did you work your way
Yeah.
out of that?
Not a prayer. Like I had to stop focusing on everything else around me and focus on, okay, so what am I, like I said, that introspective look, what am I doing wrong? Like what can I do to find peace in this situation? And that's where, like I said, my spirituality comes in big time because it's
Mhm.
like I have to figure out a way that I can find peace. Whatever that spirituality thing that you do or whatever you have. I don't care if it's Buddha, Jesus, whatever, the Pope, whatever. You have to find what centers you and what grounds you, whatever that is. And so I found that and I had to really stand on that. And that's the only thing that got me through this whole process because I'm telling you, I would never say this. I don't want to say this lightly because it could be very inflammatory, but I see why people, those people that like lose it all, they go from billionaires and they just
Yeah.
lose it all and they're like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I'm gone. I'm gone. I know, and I'll never judge somebody for doing that because
Sure.
I know why they do it. You feel hopeless. You feel like there's no way out. You feel like I've lost it all and this is what's most important to me and I've lost it all and I can't deal with this anymore. And I get it. I
Yeah.
understand now. And so, like I said, this has forced me to look at life totally different. I don't value the things that I used to value or or regard highly of the things that I used to regard highly anymore. I changed my whole perspective. And like I said, grounding and centering myself around my spirituality and really focusing on me has really helped me do that.
Yeah. I and I think what you were avoiding the word, but I mean, I think we were talking about suicidal thoughts and yeah, I think that is so much more prevalent. I know it's more prevalent in our society. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's a dirty little word, but we all, maybe not all, but a lot of us will go through those dark walks. And
Absolutely.
I just interviewed a gentleman, longest running hypnotist in Las Vegas. But
Oh, wow.
it wasn't. I thought it was going to be like this fun interview around hypnotism, right? And but this guy has been through some hell. I mean, and he talks about the trauma, and hypnosis has helped him, and then he made a career out of it. But
Wow.
what did he say? He's like, at that moment, you think it'll just be easier because he was suicidal. He said it'll just be easier for everyone if I'm not.
Yep.
He goes, which all it does is it makes it harder for everyone you leave behind. What you did is you just made it
Absolutely.
infinitely harder. He lost his mother
Absolutely.
and a girlfriend to suicide, and so he's like,
Oh,
and I have to live with that. Like, right, like that didn't help me. That didn't solve anything, and so it's germane that we're having this conversation because
yeah.
on this podcast, when I started this, 40 episodes ago or whatever, I dance around topics and I didn't want to get too deep into. Now I'm like,
Right.
no, she's talking about suicide, so let's talk about suicide because people need to
Yep.
hear that so that
Yep.
if they're having a tough year, a tough
Mhm.
life,
Mhm.
there's light on the other side. You can say,
Right.
I've been there. There's light on the other side. I can say, I've been there. There's light on the other side. And if people will just find other people that have been through it, they'll get through it. And and I know, like, you'll help anybody that's there because as a human being, we want to help other human beings who are there because nobody should be there. But a lot of us
Nobody.
may take that walk at points. Um,
Yeah.
so, wow, that's going to transition right into this last question. And we live in a crazy world right now, Kat. So,
Woo.
if you had a magic wand, if Kat was handed a magic wand and she could make one change to the world, you wave this
Oh,
magic
man.
wand, only one, but you can make one change to the world. When we wake up tomorrow morning, how is the world different according to Kat?
Oh, man. I was just praying about this today.
Love it.
I would get rid of all these people that are doing things, these evil people in the world that are doing things for not for our benefit, just for power, greed, money, whatever. I
Yeah.
would get rid of all these people. Every last one of them, do away. Because there's a lot
Yeah.
of people that are doing sinister things in this world, and I just, from the topics. I don't even want to bring them
Yeah.
up, but
Yeah. Sure.
it's just sinister things in this world. So if I had a magic one, I'd get rid of all of them, every last one of them. Political figures, leaders, like whatever, like just
See ya.
politicians. Bah,
Adios.
you get really good
All right.
people.
So the most important question here, I love this last 10 minutes has been wonderful, really. And the whole thing's been wonderful, but I loved how real we got there. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, I'm holding up Kat's book and it's called Why They Are Winning and You Are Not. I love that title. And it's the steps to finding success in life. It's available on Amazon. Most important question, Kat, how can people contact you, follow you, kind of be part of your journey?
Okay. So I'm available on Instagram, TikTok at The Real Cat of Atlanta, also on YouTube and Facebook, Kat Sterling. And I also
Okay.
have a website catsterling.net.
Perfect. All right. We'll put that in the show notes so that listeners can just click right on there to take them right through there. Thank you so much for one, your energy, but also just a real conversation. Just the authenticity of you. I really, really dig, man. I appreciate that. Thank you, Kat.
Thank you, Roger.
You bet. Thank you for tuning in to the ThriveMore podcast. Don't forget to take a look at the show notes for any of the resources that we mentioned during the podcast. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you have access to the latest and the greatest. You can connect with me on any of the socials at Real Roger Martin. And be sure to check out our website, ThriveMoreBrands.com. There you'll find information on the brands we support and information on franchising. Thanks again for tuning in.